Let's talk about Kagurabachi chapter 45. This chapter starts off with the Hushaku leader, who we still don't know, and he says it's all going smoothly as we predicted. The kamunabi will now take possession of the Shinoichi. Right, they will really have no other option. There's nothing they can do. They're playing right into our hand. Yes, time for our next move. Chihiro then wakes up, and Mr. Shiba is the first to greet him, saying, "Oh, perfectly in sync." Mr. Shiba then remembers that they both crashed at the exact same time, in the same way. He then tells them it's 11 in the morning the day after the Rakuzachi. Today is November 9th, and for bringing down the whole Rakuzachi auction just for them to be knocked out in a couple hours shows that these two are pretty durable. Then we get a super cool panel here that probably could be used as like a flashback panel. I like it, I think it's really cool. As we see Mr. Shiba and Hayuki playing video games as Tefuku and Char are watching. Hayuki and Tefuku then say, "You took forever waking up. Don't worry though, we weren't bored. This video game freak kept us entertained all night." Then Mr. Shiba interrupts and says, "I creamed them," with Hayuki asking who exactly is Mr. Shiba, which causes Chihiro to think and says, "Guess they don't know he's ex-kamunabi." The reason for Hayuki probably not knowing that Mr. Shiba was part of the kamunabi is because what Chihiro's dad had going on, not a lot of people in the kamunabi knew exactly. Some people in the kamunabi don't even know that Chihiro exists as his son. Then Chihiro, being the MC, asks what happens to the prisoners. We get confirmation that they all went home. Char tells Chihiro how she has a message for him from Mr. Inazama saying, "Thank you." And Mr. Unazama, it was the kid whose sister was being sold for auction that they repeatedly kept showing. And Chihiro actually did save her with the help of Hakuri. Hayuki then compliments Mr. Unazama for having a cool name. Then she says, normally it's the kamunabi's job to keep the peace and protect the vulnerable. But the fact is, evil still runs rampant in Japan. It's because the kamunabi doesn't have the necessary manpower or grit. Yesterday, thanks to you guys, we pulled off the entire operation seamlessly. Hayuki is basically saying that it's my job to make sure everything goes according to plan, but you guys were a tremendous help and we couldn't do it without you. And Mr. Shiba then says, "Yeah, but those were some crazy shenanigans, for real. I'm just glad you're okay." Mr. Shiba being a good adult. Chihiro and Hakuri both respond with sorry at the same time. The next thing on Chihiro's mind is Enten, as Hayuki passes him the sword and says, "I entrusted the Shinoichi to some colleagues. They're at the kamunabi headquarters." And these colleagues were the same two that we seen in the crowd. She then says that "I'll take you there now, so get ready." And this is part of the deal for Chihiro to join the kamunabi. The deal was that if Chihiro gave them the Shinoichi, he would be allowed to join. Mr. Shiba understands this decision as the secondary seal was made by the kamunabi, and currently Chihiro can't make that same seal. Then he asks Chihiro, is he sure? Because he knows Chihiro met one of those guys from the Hishaku, the guy who called himself the Hishaku leader. Chihiro says yeah, and Mr. Shiba then says, "I get why you're anxious, but that's exactly why we need to make our next moves carefully." Yes sir, look at Mr. Shiba, W adult. For the past 3 years, the Hishaku have been making meticulous preparations that we can't even fathom. If their goal was for the kamunabi to take possession of the Shinoichi, then that means they have their next move already planned. There are other ways they could prepare this, right? Without joining the kamunabi. And Hayuki, being a stand-up character, says, "Hey, hold on a second. Other ways? It's already been decided he's coming with me to the kamunabi." And that's exactly what Chihiro's deal was. Then Tefuku chimes in and says, "Plus you seem to take for granted the kamunabi seal, but that's for the higher ups to decide. There are alternatives to sealing it, like using it." Then Mr. Shiba thinks to himself, "I get it. That's another problem. If the idea is to seal the Shinoichi, we have to hand it over to the kamunabi. But there are too many concerns. That's why we should talk it out and eliminate as many as possible. What would be the kamunabi's motivation for using the Shinoichi?" Then Tefuku chimes in and says, "With the Shinoichi's power, we could break the kamunabi's deadlock with the Hishaku." And if you don't remember, the Hishaku is the group that Sojo is from, who also put the Shinoichi on display for the auction. So far this group has had 2 enchanted blades, one being Cloud Gouger wielded by Shoujo, and the Shinoichi, who does not have a wielder at the moment, or should I say whose wielder brother is currently in 24-hour maximum security lockdown prison in the Kamunabi. And Chihiro says, if I could show you another way to break the deadlock, then there's no need for the kamunabi to use the Shinuchi. You're right, Mr. Shiba. Maybe I am rushing things, but this isn't just a stab in the dark. Now I got Hakuri. Hakuri is surprised to be even mentioned in the plan. Hayuki then asks, what's the strategy? And I actually guessed this after reading chapter 44, that a plan like this would happen because Hakuri is the perfect person to make this plan feasible. Someone who can send objects to another realm. Chihiro said that they're gonna steal back the enchanted blades from the Hishaku. We get exposition on Hakuri's technique. Sorcery, my bad. His name sounds so much like Hakari. Hakuri can freely transport registered items and items affiliated with them. For example, if he registers me, he can transport the Enten from another location. They just have to be connected by spirit energy, and the eternal contract meets that standard. In other words, if Hakuri makes contact with the sword bearers in the Kamunabi's custody, he could transport the enchanted blade. Then Hakuri asks, sword bearers? It is then explained that the sword bearers are the people Chihiro Rokuhira trusted the most. This is your life's work, and these are the blades that changed the whole war for you guys. I would think you could trust these people the most, hence giving these for the enchanted blade. Chihiro then asks, how could we get to them? With Tafuku saying, with the exception of the sword master, who is the Shinuchi's sword contract, the bearers of the enchanted blades are hiding out in Kamunabi controlled locations throughout Japan. If they die, then the enchanted blades in the Hishaku's hand become usable. They're so heavily guarded so much that most of the Kamunabi's forces are invested in protecting them. Only the top brass can authorize access to them. They're located in these fortresses known as Sanzo. Then we see Senkatsuji Temple, Kogu Goku Hot Spring, Yuen Taisha Shrine, and Sushi Subaru. I know I just butchered these names, but come on, bro, I'm American. Hakuri thinks the plan sounds cool, but Hayuki knows that the plan just sounds cool. To ensure absolute security, most of our people are stationed there. That's the reason we're short-handed. The bulk of our forces are tied up. That's why we have to pick our battle. Then Hakuri says, so, if we get the enchanted blades back, then the Kamunabi will be freed up, and those people we set free yesterday can live in a safer world, right? Hayuki then says the world will definitely be significantly safer, and that's all it took for Hakuri to want to do it. We then see Hayuki and Chihiro in the car together. They go over the plan, saying stealing the enchanted blade back from the Hishaku is an excellent proposal. Nothing beats that, but it won't be easy. First, you'll be judged on the basis of your character and trustworthiness. You can't prove who you are other than a guy who's been wielding an enchanted blade and his pal. As far as the higher ups are concerned, there's no telling what you'll do if they let you meet the sword bearers. There's no guarantee they'll let you on board. In fact, you can end up seriously punished. She then tells Chihiro that him and Hakuri have to prove themselves. We see 8 different Kamunabi members, and I'm sure these are the higher ups and we're eventually going to be introduced to these characters. Maybe even in chapter 46, who knows. One of them tells Chihiro to state his name, and Chihiro responds, Chihiro Rokuhira. And I want to see the people's reactions. I can't wait to see everybody's reactions, because some know about Chihiro's existence, like Azami and Mr. Shiba, because not a lot of people knew what went on in that bubble. This chapter was a lot of exposition, and I'm sure the next couple of chapters will also be, but exposition builds plot, so I'm with it. And this Sunday we'll get another Kagurabachi chapter, so in all honesty, I'm hyped. Ready for the next chapter to see the look on these people's faces, and ready to just read more Kagurabachi in general. If you like this video, hit the like, comment, and subscribe. We are almost at 500 subs. It has been Otaku Talk.